Hey guys, welcome back to Real Housewives Recaps. Today we're doing something a little different. We are deep diving Real Housewives of New York. We're going old school. We're going back to season 3. Remember? That was like the greatest season with the Scary Island and what was it? Jill and Bethany not speaking. So much going on. So good. So I thought we'd revisit it. So if you've been with the channel, huge thank you. I appreciate you being here. I took a break. I'm going to keep going with the break. It's just a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes and things are a little crazy. So I thought, you know what? Let's dive into some old school Real Housewives. So this is actually originally from Patreon, so I thought I would repost it for everybody to enjoy. One of my favorite seasons. I thought we'd dive into the reunion here. I have part 1 and part 2 coming out, and then we'll jump into season 4. Remember the Morocco trip and Lou saying, even Louis Vuitton makes mistakes, calls Alex Herman Munster. Anyway, guys, thank you for all the lovely support and comments. I am still here. I'm still in the comments reading them all. Thank you so much. I will be around, but just enjoy these vintage episodes for now. If I say something that doesn't make sense, well, that's because this was recorded like a year and a half ago, so just ignore it. But let's dive into this episode. And again, thanks for all the love and support. And check out my Patreon if you're interested, patreon.com/Real Housewives Recaps. Still got a lot of content over there. Hey guys, welcome back to Real Housewives Recaps. Today I'm covering Real Housewives of New York Season 3 Reunion. You guys, it was so good. I loved rewatching this. So this reunion is a 3-parter. It's actually the first 3-part reunion that Bravo had done. How cool. There's just so much to cover. They broke it up in 3 parts, and I have so much to talk about. We're going to see how we go. I probably will end up breaking this up into 2 parts because I have the feeling I'm going to go on and on about this because I really want to talk about this with you guys and see what your thoughts were on the reunions. Let's get into it. Okay, so on one couch of this reunion, we had Bethenny, Ramona, and Alex. On the other couch, we had Jill, Kelly, and Luann. Later on, Sonja joined them, and she ended up sitting next to Alex. It was Bethenny, Ramona, Alex, and Sonja. Now, this stage is kind of funny because, I don't know, it just seemed a little sparse compared to later on. We see all these props in the background, but in these early years, that wasn't really the focus. Let's talk about these outfits for a second. I'm actually going to give Alex my Best Dressed award. I really liked her gold dress. I thought she looked beautiful. I thought Ramona looked nice. I'm trying to understand that this was years ago. I just don't love that style of dress necessarily, but it looked pretty on her. Bethenny, it's just not even fair. She had had a baby just days before. She looked gorgeous. I'm not even going to go there because my baby's 6 and I don't look like this. So I mean, all the women look beautiful. The only standout to me that I really did not care for is Jill's hair. Really did not like Jill's hair. It was poofy. It's just over the top. It's just too poofy on top. It just looked very dated. I'll say that. I think Kelly looks beautiful. Her dress is a little crazy. When she stood up, you can see that there's straps and a lot of stuff going on. Lou looks gorgeous. She always does. I think that color's nice on her. It's just funny that I think she looks even younger now than she did even back then. Okay, and there's Andy. Hi, Andy. So Andy starts off saying, this season seemed so mean. You all were ripping at each other's heads off. What was it like watching that back? And I have to laugh because however many years it's been, like, this was probably, to me, the best season, the most entertaining season, but it's not the meanest season we've seen. I'm not even talking about New York. Think about all the franchises. Think about what's going on in Potomac right now. It's definitely not the meanest. Let's see. They talk about, Alex and her most memorable one-liner of the season. She said, you're in high school, and when you're in high school, I am in Brooklyn. Andy tells Alex, you're a different person this season. Alex says, no. This season, I finally let it all out. She had been holding it back the last few seasons, but she finally learned to speak up. She said, I finally let it out. I feel so much freer. ask me what I'm thinking and I will tell you. And she said she wishes when she wanted to say something, she could say it more smoothly. And says to Lou, oh, okay, so I thought this was good right off the bat. She brings up that Lou was in the middle of Jill and Bethany. And Lou completely denies it. And I don't know why I was surprised. I shouldn't be surprised, but Lou can't cop to it. Lou doesn't even see that she was in the middle, and she completely was. That's what I've been saying all season long. Alex says she wishes she would have said more to Lou other than that, she was happy with how everything came out this season. And Jill says, I'm happy Alex found her voice. We cleared the air at Saks. We had fun at her home. But then the next time she saw Alex, she said, you're a coward. And you delivered a message for Bethenny, not for you. Jill says it is what it is. We were not friends and we never will be. Alex says, every time you feel threatened or we get something that you want or you feel threatened by us, you fight back and you fight back dirty. You go to the gossip columns. You fight back. You try to get people not to film with other people. So this was interesting because we start to find out this is a thing. Like, this is the first time I can recall hearing about this where, and Bethenny explains later, that's something that they do. They, like, even Bethenny apparently told people not to film with Kelly because nobody liked Kelly. So it's just interesting to hear the behind the scenes stuff. I love hearing stuff like that. I like to be a fly on the wall for all that. Okay, so Kelly's like, this is not the Housewives courtroom with no judge. And Bethenny says, we have 2 million people as a judge. Jill says, I've never given a story on you, but we all have relationship with the press. Okay. Jill said Alex, oh yeah, so that came up, where Jill said Alex had the body of a supermodel, but not the face. And Alex says, this is you running your mouth and having to apologize. And then they bring up how Alex gets the hives. And she's like, listen, when I get uncomfortable, I break out. I have fair skin. I believe it's the next season when they go to Morocco. And I can't wait to cover that, by the way. That's probably what I'm going to jump into next. But I believe that comes up a lot with Alex and her hives. And I'm a fair skinned person, too. So I get it. I turn pink from anything. So I'm with Alex on this one. And I think it's funny that Kelly gets so upset by it. She can't help it. We have a whole thing about Ramona renewing herself. Andy says, you smacked everyone here with a 2x4 all season. Ramona, we get it. You think you've renewed yourself. It doesn't look like much has changed, so spare us the renewal talk. I freaking love that. That was so funny to me. That was obviously a viewer that said that. Andy read it off, but I just thought that was so funny. And Ramona says, well, actually, I've got hundreds of thousands of, this is what she said, Twitters and Facebook comments. Everyone loves the way I look this season and the way I am. And Jill says, you're rude behind people's back. And Ramona says, what do you think of your walk? Oh, no, they ask Ramona, what do you think of your walk on the runway? And she said, well, everyone was calling me crazy eyes. That was so funny. Oh my God, I'll never forget that walk down the runway. That's the best thing ever. Jill, looking back at Ramona's True Renewal event, weren't you just as rude as she was at your Kodak event? And Jill actually apologizes. She said, I was, and I'm sorry. But I'm glad that they called her out on that. Then they bring up Ramona and the Brooklyn Bridge walk. And, oh my God, that was just the cruelest, most intense few minutes of TV where she's saying, like, you screw everything up. You've got this thing with Jason. You're probably going to screw that up too. And now knowing what all Bethenny was going through and, you know, getting pregnant, getting engaged, losing her dad, all that, and then to have Ramona say this, oh my God, so cringe. So Ramona admits that she was wrong and she apologizes to Bethenny. She says she wishes she could take that back. Kelly says, oh really? When you called me stupid, would you take that back? And Ramona's like, I don't know, Kelly. That's a nice way of saying, no, you act like you're pretty stupid. Then they start talking about how everything has happened for Bethenny this season. How is Jason reacting to all this? And Bethenny says, well, he didn't sign up for this. He's a team player. He's not blogging or tweeting. And he's perfect. He doesn't think about it. And they feel so lucky about having Bryn. You know, she's just a couple days old at this point. And if you work hard, you can have it all. It's 12 days since Bryn was born. He has her stand up and to look at her. And that was just very cringy for me, too. I didn't care for that. Bethenny explains she was healthy before, and while she was pregnant, she gained 35 pounds, but, you know, it's mostly come right back off. Oh, goodness. So much to talk about there. But I just think it's funny because this section where she's saying, you know, Jason didn't sign up for this. This wasn't his thing, but he's in it, and, you know, he's not here for the fame. Well, okay. So since all this happened, and we know that, of course, they're in a huge blowout fight. They have been for 8 years, I think. Something crazy. She's since come out and says he's way more fame hungry than he lets on. He actually is in it for the fame, and the fans, and the money, and all that stuff. So I just think it's interesting to hear both points of view. Then Andy asks Bethenny, can you address the media whore accusations? It came up several times with several castmates. And she says, yeah, I get press for my ventures. I'm not a media whore. And they bring up that Kelly called her a media whore. There are people who do things with malicious intent. Bethenny says, I have never talked to the press about you. And Kelly says, that's heresy. I'm not going to fight with you about what the facts are. And Bethenny says, tell me who told you I did this. And Kelly says, no. And Bethenny says, well, then in what publication? And Kelly says, Bethenny, what are you doing right now? So this is the most infuriating part of the reunion for me, is this Kelly throws these accusations out, refuses to back them up in any way. And then when people try to call her on it, she says she takes you out of the moment by saying things like, what are you doing? What are we doing? What's going on? Hey, idiot. I know that sounds harsh, but that's how I feel. Hey, idiot, we're on a reunion. This is where we're supposed to tell all and answer questions and ask questions and find out what happened. That's what the viewers want. That's what the ladies want. So I found Kelly totally infuriating. I came here looking for answers from her. I got none. I left with even more questions about her. Yeah, so this part just kind of bothered me. Because if she would just answer Bethenny's question, it's so weird. She makes these things up in her mind and she believes them so wholeheartedly. And then she doesn't follow through with them. Or she can't provide any proof of what she's saying. It's just the craziest thing I've ever seen. It goes on to say that PR people were planting things about her family. And Bethenny says, why? Try to think logically here. I haven't said one thing about you this entire season. You've gone off talking to the press about me. And she said, so you really need to recognize. And Kelly said, I never once used your name. Ask anyone. And Alex says, you gave a whole article when she got pregnant about giving her mom tips. And Kelly clearly forgot about this and kind of gets pissy and says, no, they were asking me for mom tips. They asked me about Bethenny. Don't put words in my mouth, Alex. And Alex says, well, I didn't. You said this. Then we get into the Jill versus Bethenny of it all. And Jill starts off by saying, I don't want to bring this crap up anymore. I don't like who I was. I was in a bad place for multiple reasons. So to me, that's just her laying the groundwork. Like, this is going to be my stance on all this. Everybody realized I came off looking like an asshole. So this is how I'm going to defend it, by saying I was going through a lot of stuff. Bring up how Bethenny tried to talk to her several times, like at the fashion show. And Jill tries to explain that away, saying it was a weird energy. I have no excuse. I should have let it all go. I hope you realize I'm a New York bitch. She said, I realized it, but it was too late. I didn't want to cause you any stress. You were newly pregnant. So again, it's excuses. Like, I was going through stuff. You were newly pregnant. Bethenny kind of hits the nail on the head with this, because she explains, no, Jill, you realized that everybody had turned on you and you were being crucified in the media, and that's when you decided, oh, okay, I need to make up with Bethenny. It wasn't a genuine hey, I want to revive this friendship. I don't want to look like a butthole in the media. What are your thoughts on this? Do you agree? I don't know. I just don't know where to put Jill. I felt like we didn't get to see the real Jill. It was all an act. And she thought she would have everybody on her side. When she realized she didn't, then she, at the end, started to apologize. And I just don't buy it. Jill says, I know we're in a bad place now, but if we're ever really friends, I really hope there's a future with us. And Bethenny explained it really well. She says, what really happened is we were best friends. I know you're generally happy for me in many cases, but then this show and this fame thing, it took over. You used to be a nice girl from Long Island. Things that happened to me, you'd say, why can't I do that? Why can't I get that? You got very worked up about things that were happening to me, and it started to feel like I couldn't tell you everything, because the minute I would, you'd go on some rampage. Okay, I'm going to take a pause right here and say, here's the interesting part moving forward as far as I'm concerned. I'm going to go controversial here because I know everybody loves Bethenny, and that's cool. I like Bethenny. I can appreciate all that she's added to the shows and, you know, her smarts and her business savviness. Here's my problem with Bethenny. I feel like fame changed her too. And I understand it would. She became $100-something million richer. That'll change you too, I'm sure. Wouldn't know, but I'm sure. But I do feel like Bethenny's changed too, and not necessarily for the better. So I do think it's funny that she's calling Jill out for letting the fame go to her head. But like, think about the last season Bethenny was on. She'd only film certain times. She wasn't in a lot of scenes, and when she was, it was about how she wanted to film and how she wanted to handle things. And I feel like the fame got to her too. So I think it's interesting that she's telling Jill this, because I think it happened to both of them. Then we find out, you know, we've been hearing about Bethenny's message all season, but we find out Jill left Bethenny a message that says, wasn't I the one who put you on the show? And apparently she emailed that to Bethenny. And Jill says over and over, show me the tapes, show it to me. I don't remember, show it to me. And Bethenny's like, you can't use failed memories. Because this comes up a lot. Anytime somebody would bring up she didn't like, she'd say, I don't remember, show me, prove it. And even Andy has to step in and say, we don't just have these clips ready to go. We can't play it right now. So that was pretty funny. So then Bethenny says, I left you a message, Jill. I've thanked you in my book. I've thanked you 1,000,000 times. You count everything. This is what you do. So when we broke up our friendship, you said you were done. You meant it. The cameras went up and you were like, let me slay this girl. And that's when both Alex and Ramona chime in and say, yeah, you did. You told us both not to film with her. Jill's like, no, it's not true. It's not true. But then we find out details that it does sound like she said that. Alex, says, you did too. And Ramona says the same thing. And Bethenny says, you did. So, oh yeah. And then it comes up that Jill also says, let's sabotage Bethenny's show. Because Bethenny was getting that spinoff, Bethenny Ever After, which I also want to cover. And Jill was not happy about it. She didn't think she should have her own show, so they thought not filming with her might sabotage that. Luz says, from season to season, certain people say don't film with such and such a person. And again, that's where we learn a little bit more. I find that so interesting. Alex says, you said don't film with Bethenny, let her go do her own show. Bethenny says, when your plan didn't work, that's when you started to change. Jill says, if you go back, the reason we didn't make up, when I went to Ramona's house in the morning, you showed up with tears in your eyes and said, let's talk. I said, let's do it without the cameras. Is it true or not true? It's this whole convoluted story. And Bethenny says, I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. She says, what are we all doing here? We put it all on camera. This is the moment that you wanted to take off camera when we make up. You put your husband's cancer on TV. You put your daughter's weight loss camp on camera. This is what we signed up for. And they argue back and forth about that. And Bethenny says, you'll put cancer on TV, but you don't want to put a makeup on camera? I don't want to badger you. I haven't said you need to change. You become so much more superficial. And then again, I think, well, Bethenny, aren't you the one that was talking about, she talks about, I think it was maybe the second to last season she was on, how much she loves to shop. And she buys all these things, and then she says the other women can't afford to shop as much as she can. And I'm probably getting that quote wrong, but I thought, interesting that you're calling out somebody else for being superficial. Jill is upset. She's saying, life is short. We had something really good. And she gets up and she starts walking off, saying, I gotta go. Then part 2 happens, and Jill comes back. She apologizes for walking away. Andy says, in the finale, you said the tides were turning on Jill. What did you mean? And Bethenny says, well, the public and press gave you a wake-up call in your behavior. You wanted to be liked, and that wasn't the case. You made it more apologetic. That's exactly what I think, too. That's exactly what happened. She had in her mind that the whole of America would be on Team Jill, and when she figured out, oh, shit, that's not what's happening, she's now changing her tune. And now she wants to make up with Bethenny. I think that's complete crap. If they truly were friends, that's not how you handle a friend. Andy brings up something kind of funny that I didn't remember. So apparently Simon told New York Magazine that Jill gets really pissed if anyone else is deemed more successful or given their own show or has better exposure. And then he says he thinks that you're pissed that Bethenny got her own show. And Jill said, when Bethenny told me she wasn't allowed to tell anyone, I was one of the first people. I was so happy for her. And it's what you want. You're a beautiful, talented girl. And, I know it'll be successful. I'm the last person to be accused of not being happy for my friends. Ramona says she called me in my office one day and says, why should we help her have a successful show? Why should we film with her anymore? So again, it's coming up. Jill's saying, Ramona, you're lying, but everybody else is kind of backing up Ramona's claim because Alex is saying, yep, you said the same thing to me. Ramona says, production called me and says, you're not going to listen to Jill, are you? And I said, no. Can you believe that? So now Jill finally realizes, oh shit, they're finding out. So she admits it. She says, okay, I'm caught. And Bethenny says, to what end? That was my livelihood at the time. I had a show and no Bobby. And that was it. That was everything to me. Jill apologizes and says she was wrong. So it's interesting that actually did happen and is coming out. Andy asks Jill about the message from Bethenny and says, why did you keep that message for 2 months? And she says, it was a mistake. I shouldn't have played the message. I'm thinking, yeah, again, that's because everybody crucified you over it. Jill, a lot of comments are saying that you played the cancer card, talking about Bobby and using that against Bethenny. And she says, I didn't play the card. He had a huge thing in his neck. And it's sad to talk about that because he ultimately did pass away from cancer. So that's, no, regardless of my feelings about a stupid show, obviously you wouldn't wish that on anybody. That's terrible. Let's see. Jill says, it was stupid. I held a grudge. I shouldn't have. You're right. Bethenny explains she didn't make it a big deal because Jill didn't make it a big deal. She was calling it a procedure, but then when she could, she used it against Bethenny and saying, they slit his throat. Why weren't you there? And Bethenny says, it's like me taking you into a stadium of 2 million people, aka the viewers, and saying, Jill, my father just died. You didn't call me. And you're like, hi, everyone. I didn't know. She said, it's kind of screwed up. That's what happened. And Lou says, it seems like there's a lot more issues than the cancer thing, darling. Jill says, it seems like your true colors are showing. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Jill didn't say that. Andy says, Jill, it seems like your true colors are showing. You make nasty comments when it's not about you. And Bethenny says, she's taken enough hits already. Let's murder her. Jill cries and says she can't do that, and she tries to get up again. And he says, okay, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back. And then we're going to switch over to Sonja Morgan. And that's where I'm going to end this episode, because a lot of good stuff's coming up. And we're going to talk to Sonja, and we're going to get into the scary island of it all. And I really want to talk through that and what all happened, even though Kelly pisses me off, doesn't give us a great answer. I'd really like to talk about that. So thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I can't wait to get into the next episode and really talk about Scary Island and what the heck is up with Kelly. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I sincerely appreciate all the support. I hope you guys have a fantastic week, and thank you for everything, and I will talk to you very soon. Take care. Stay healthy and safe. Bye-bye.